Welcome to Keeping It Real on Purpose. I'm your host, Edna White, and I am so glad to have a guest today on our podcast guest swap. And I have today Zaakirah. Did I say it right? Muhammad?
Zaakirah.
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 See, I
Zaakirah.
said it earlier. I said it earlier right, and I said it wrong now. So Zaakirah Muhammad, who is an author, she does have some I want to say photography going on, which I'm dying to hear about it, but also a podcast. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Edna.
So I'm excited to learn about. I know now I found that pre-show that you're an author. Tell us about your book.
Yes, so I am the author of a book called Seeing Life Through a Different Lens, a survivor's memoir on overcoming adversity with resilience. And so most people who have submitted Amazon reviews, they call it a self-help guide. So basically
Oh, okay.
it's a memoir, written by my mother and I, about surviving childhood eye cancer. So I am a survivor of a childhood eye cancer called retinoblastoma, and so that means I can only see you in one eye right now. My right eye is a prosthetic. My left eye, I have 20/20 vision in. So the book is about that journey.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and it's an
Didn't
amazing
know that.
journey. That kind of actually where the photography came in. It was a photograph that my mother took of me when I was 6 months old. Mom taking pictures of their babies, but
Yeah,
this
of course.
she saw something exactly, and so she saw something different. You know how back in the day when we would print photos, you can see red eyes, right? If it was
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
well, instead it was a white glow. It was I had like a white eye. And
Wow.
so my mom took that to first to my, pediatrician for my 6 month checkup. That doctor said, "Don't worry about it. You're just speaking out. It's nothing to worry about." But my mom trusted her intuition, so then she got a second diagnosis, and that's where she
Right.
was able to get the official diagnosis of retinoblastoma. And she was told right then and there, if we do not have surgery to remove this tumor or remove the eye because of the tumor behind the eye, I could
Right.
eventually die. So
Oh, wow.
thank goodness for mom following the intuition, and thank goodness for my dad being the emotional support. Here I am
Yeah.
today, 30 plus years later.
That's beautiful. I love that story. I love it. And audience, I hope that you heard that. You can survive anything and with the right support system. I really love that. I love it, love it, love it. Tell us your favorite part in that book.
Mm. I think there's a chapter. I think it's chapter seven. My favorite number is seven, so it might be chapter seven. But that was really I
Yeah.
was able to get down into the nitty gritty of the ages 7 to 13, right? Because normally those are the ages where we are defining our purpose. Whatever
Mhm.
experiences we are going through are helping us to shape and hone in on our purpose. So that chapter just describing, how I even got further deeper into photography because my mom introduced me to a camera, right? Before she even told me
She
before
sure
she even
did.
told me about the story about how
Yes.
a camera literally saved my life, she introduced me to a camera, and it still saved my life because for
Yeah.
the life of me, I just would not speak to people. I grew up an only child. I mean, I have older siblings from their previous relationship, but they're twice
Yeah.
my age, right? So I grew up an only
Right.
child. For the life of me, my mom was like, I didn't want to talk to people. So the minute she gives me a camera, she didn't even have to tell me how to use it. I just
And you
started taking
figured it out, right?
pictures.
That's the
That was
beauty
it,
of it.
So that
That was
chapter was
that's the
probably
beauty.
my
That's the beauty of purpose, though. That's
exactly.
such the beauty of purpose is when you don't have to be shown any of that. Like when I started writing, I didn't have anyone that taught me writing, and it was like it just came out beautiful. Like who wrote this? Like, oh, me. Where did it come from? I was like, that's inside. But when you're in your purpose, you don't need anyone to teach you that. It just glows. It comes out of you. That's a really great thing. So share with us today what about your podcast because I know I'm anxious to hear. I heard a little bit pre-show, but I would love for my audience to know about what you're doing with your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is actually a shortened version of the name of my book. So my book is Seeing Life Through a Different Lens, which you're probably already trying to remember it. Like, what is it? I gotta find it on Amazon correctly. But
It's
what
so
I decided
easy.
to do, what I decided to
Yeah.
do was shorten it to just 3 words. See life different. So that's the name of the
Yeah.
podcast. And so that podcast has been around for 5 years now. And it mainly interviews other women, predominantly women of color, other creatives like me, others who have gone through adversity like me. And then there's
Hmm.
a handful of solo episodes. I've got to interview my mom and my dad, where you can get like an extended version versus the version of what they shared in the book. Because obviously I had a
Yeah.
word limit for my publishing. I self-published, but I still had a word limit. So there's only a
Yeah.
handful of stories in there, but the podcast expands on those life stories and includes other women with similar pathways. And
Yeah.
it's been a beautiful journey of just podcasting, storytelling, interviewing, and being able to expand that, to not just teaching others about photography, but I've actually got to expand even into marketing because I've been photographing for so long. I've seen all of the cameras, all of the, types of photography. And so,
Yeah.
now at this point, I pretty much teach others, if not photography, but how to tell
Right.
stories, specifically on social media, because that's the future. That's where we are right now.
Right.
But being able to teach others how to do that is now also a summit, right? So, there's going to be a summit commemorating Women's History Month in March, and I travel a lot, but I currently, at the time of this conversation, live in
Yeah.
the original Black Wall Street, aka Tulsa, Oklahoma. So the epitome of
Okay.
black and brown, entrepreneurs, storytellers, and just empowering them to tell their stories. So that's how we
Right.
got from the podcast and going to the summit and to the book, like anything creative, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you describe or empowering someone through storytelling? How do you describe that, and what does it look like?
It definitely looks like doing a little bit of digging and pulling or even pushing to get them out of their comfort zone. That's always the first thing that happens. And, and it could even be like a mother or even a sister to kind of be like, "What's wrong with you? It's right there in front of you." There's some moments like that where I am tough love. I will give tough love like that. Just to make
Yeah.
sure that, okay, stop trying to hide or beat around the bush of the story that's right there, the story that you don't want to talk about, the story that you growing through is the one that's going to be a part of your purpose. So normally that's where it starts.
Right. And I know from my own experience of telling my own story around childhood sexual abuse, it is a lot of pushing and pulling. Um, but once the cork kind of comes off, it comes off. How do you, when you're in your element doing, even if it's photography, whatever you're doing, how do you keep the story coming or coming out, but maintain control, like in order to make them help your client be the best who they can be?
Yeah, I think it you gotta they gotta go deep within too. Like I go deep within, I'm spiritual as well. So I know that I definitely have to go deep within first and foremost. But
Mhm.
I think also embracing creativity makes a difference as well because the more you listen to other podcasts and
Right.
people telling their stories, watch
Right.
other documentaries or listen to other people, the more you start to say, "Oh
Yes.
yeah, I remember that part of my story. I think I feel safe to share it now."
Right. That's right, Zakira. That's right. That's so right. When you're let's take someone when you're photography. Photography takes a lot. I know I I just didn't do. I used to be a model back in the days, when Vogue was around, back those times, and it was very difficult. You know, Putting people in position. It was like I was a mannequin, right? How do you make the best come out in somebody in photography? Because you have to have the touch, you have to have the personality. What is it that makes you such a great photographer? You know.
I think it's music. Music actually makes a huge difference as an
Oh
icebreaker,
yeah.
as an icebreaker and definitely I'm intuitive and observant too, right? So normally what I did
Yeah.
try to do for sure if I knew I was specifically having like a model and what I knew what the model was going to do with these photos would
Right.
then determine, okay, am I going to create a specific playlist of their favorite Beyonce songs, right? Whoever is their favorite,
Right.
or are we
Oh,
going to
that's nice.
set a certain mood? Like, thank goodness there's AI
Yeah.
automated playlists now, but back then it's like, okay, let me go get this specific CD, let me go get this specific playlist.
Right.
And music really, once somebody's favorite song is on, there's not much I have to do, you know?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great tip. That's a really great tip. I know that you're an entrepreneur. I know that. What's one major tip around your entrepreneurship that you could share with my audience?
Make sure you're doing something you love and enjoy. You know, I think I mean, right now, I'm playing the role of being an interim CEO for a startup, and which is fine because I've been my own CEO for my own startup, right? But what's
Right.
different between, doing it for my own company is I can pick and choose the task, right? I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do this
Hmm.
today, or I can delegate this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But me being a
yeah.
CEO of another company, I gotta, do all of the redundant, things. So, but make sure that regardless, it's something you enjoy doing. Like in the end,
Right.
what is your legacy going to be? Is it still in alignment with your purpose? So making sure that you're still having fun.
Yeah, purpose is so very important. How does that play out in your life?
Yeah, it's everywhere. Like even when I run from it, like I haven't picked up a camera. Like I still have my I have what they call the format cameras, right? Of course, we have our smartphones,
Uh-huh.
have our action cameras, but I
Hmm.
still have the half format cameras, and so I haven't. I think the last time I picked that up to use it was maybe over the summer, right?
Okay.
So there's some moments where I just feel like I would naturally check out. Like I haven't done a studio portrait probably since prior to the pandemic. I haven't been like in the studio prior to the pandemic. So there's some
Right.
moments where I'll feel like I won't feel like photographing, right? But then, ironically, also in March, I'm gonna have one of the most biggest speaking engagements, and it's all about photography. I'm going back to my roots about photography. So,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's one of those signs of purpose too, where if you find yourself saying, "Oh," again to whatever the thing is, it's kind of your purpose. It's not gonna go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's usually the challenge. Do you what challenge? Because I know there's a lot of challenges, and people talk about entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurs. It's hard, and I don't find it hard when you're doing like you said in your what you enjoy and your purpose. I don't find it hard, but I know there's been challenges along the road. What challenges have you encountered?
Yeah, well, for me, I think it goes back to the basis of being a cancer survivor. Being a cancer survivor, and even if you're just looking at me on video right now, you're probably like, "You cancer survivor? No, wait, what?" But I think that happens a lot because I was
Yeah,
blessed to have so many good doctors that you wouldn't know that my right eye is a prosthetic. You wouldn't know that I have a hearing aid in my right eye as a result of the
yeah,
radiation.
right,
So I have had to deal with that on the level of being able to advocate for myself. One, whether I stepped out of entrepreneurship and decided to get a job,
right,
or I'm pitching to a future entrepreneurial client to let them know, like, hey, I kind of need a flexible schedule because sometimes I experience bouts of fatigue, and I also had
right,
polycystic ovarian syndrome, which could also
right, right.
extra tired during my time of the month. So, being able to
Mhm.
advocate for myself, but at the same time, because they can't see it, it's not like I have a cane all the time. It's not like,
Right.
I'm completely blind and you can see my eyes kind of move in opposite directions. So they're kind of like, you are probably not being honest with me. So moments
Yeah.
like that will come up of
Yeah.
judgment and not really someone trusting or believing in you, and of course
Yeah.
that affects your mental health, and in entrepreneurship all you have is you yourself and your body. Your mind, your body,
Yeah. Yeah.
all you got. So
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the mental health around people talking about you. Talk about that.
yeah, it took a minute. We keep it real on this podcast, right? So
Yeah.
there are some moments for sure throughout the entire time. I've definitely had some suicidal ideation. I'm like, what's the point? you know
Right.
and especially adding to the fact that I don't often have that sister or brother to turn to my left or right to go crying
Right.
into the arms of, right?
Yeah.
um
Got you.
even when I was married for like 6 years, and it was like we're both alpha humans, right? He was
Yeah.
alpha, alpha, and so I'm like, okay, I can't turn to you either because you're like, you got this, and I'm like, I'm telling you, I don't. So I think that gets hard too. To kind of, you got to know yourself really to know, okay,
Hmm.
the only other place to turn to is inward, right? So whatever that looks like, whether
Absolutely. All
on
the
a
way in.
or creative, whatever that inward turning inward looks like. I think I've had to be
Mhm.
able to listen and be in touch with myself well enough to know, like, okay, today not today.
Yeah. Today's not the day. And that's a good thing when you can monitor yourself and say that. I had a particular I think last weekend I was feeling like that, and everybody's calling, texting me. I was like, today's not the day. It's just not the day. Let me, let me process this, because when, we as Black women, we get a feeling, we don't process it. Like, oh yeah, if we're sad, gotta brush it off, and we don't process it. Over the weekend, I was feeling a little bit despondent because I have a half sister, and she doesn't like me because I came into their life kind of late, and it was some resentment. I knew it was misplaced because she was upset that I wasn't there with all the craziness that was happening in her life. But I'm there late, and then everything was over. So I get that, but I was just trying to find out my brother, how do I get around that? And he's like, well, it's gonna have to take time. I didn't want to hear that. I was like, so I just gotta like deal with this. So, and the emotion hit me so hard that I was like, wow, I really it was like it was loss. It felt like loss, like somebody died.
Mhm,
Really, and I had to process that. I had to say, this is deep. This is really deep. I have to be quiet for a little bit and process this and feel it, and then put it somewhere. And I'm not saying putting it in a bag, but like just put, what I was doing is putting it in a place. What
mhm,
emotion is this? Why is this emotion happening? And
mhm,
then, okay, it's good to feel this way. Now I need to do this in order to build from that point.
mhm,
You know, so I know emotions get to you. I know it gets to all, and especially us as entrepreneurs, because you said we're by ourselves. We're the CEO, the CFO, the EEO. We're all of that. We're just all of that in one. How do you, how do you regulate time management wise?
mhm. So I think um, having a routine has definitely helped.
Okay.
And of course it's different when okay, I gotta be out the door on the road in this office by 9 a.m., right? But at the same
Yeah.
time, entrepreneurial, you get to create your own office, create your own schedule. So trying to maintain that, right? I know at first,
Yeah.
like, especially in the winter time, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm gonna stay in my pajamas today. I'm gonna stay in bed today. But if you know
Yeah.
that's not where you get your best work done, you're already setting yourself up for failure for that day.
Yeah.
So, create a morning routine, create that environment that you know is going to be most productive. And again, that
Right.
requires looking inward. What did that look like? Do you need plants
Right.
around you? Do you
Right.
need artwork around you? Do you need a certain music playlist? What did that look like to make sure that you can have a certain routine to kind of keep you going?
Right. So looking at the market, the the what's going on trending these days, right? We're seeing a whole lot of truth bombs being dropped everywhere. Where are you on the thoughts of truth, like in entrepreneurship? Where are you in that?
We might have to break that question down even a bit further, because I think until people are I feel like until they've made it 3 years within entrepreneurship, it's all he say, she say, because
Yeah,
you're reading other books of the people who have made it
that's
7
good.
to 10 years. Yeah, they're 7 to 10 years
Yeah,
in,
that's
right? So they
that's good.
found what worked for them. So you're 2 to 3 years in, and you're just making up things along the way, right? Which is
Right,
natural.
right.
I mean, you don't necessarily have a manual for entrepreneurship the same way most parents don't have manuals, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
understandably,
absolutely.
read all the books you want, but you won't really know until you're 3 to 5 years in. I feel like it's like school all
Right,
over. That's why
right, right.
overnight successes, I've had to accept it myself too. That overnight successes are actually 12 years in the making. They're in the school of life all over again.
Yeah,
So
right,
there's
right.
gonna be a lot of he say she say until they have experience or at the same place that, whatever it is
Right.
trending about entrepreneurship, about the media industry, about the venture capitalist industry. I'm personally proud as of right now. There's the honeypot, the Pat, the CEO of Pat. She just
Yeah.
got she got equity. She has venture capital funding in the company, but she can still be
Hmm.
the CEO. She can still create the product and serve the people that she wants to serve, and that's super important,
Right.
right? So I
Right.
think right now that's one of the trending news, and that's my unpopular opinion of like I'm proud of her, because I've seen
Yeah. Of course.
a
Of
decade in the
course.
making. So this is what
Yeah.
she needs for where she is at her point in entrepreneurship. But if you're just a consumer or you're just starting out trying to make your own product, you're probably like, what is she doing? So
Right. Right. You're right. I like how you said it. It's a lot of he say she say, because you are trying to replicate someone else, and you are reading books from somebody else's viewpoint, and until you really get, I guess, in yourself and say, hey, this is my product or my service. I got to really be truthful with myself, and I got to say, this is me. This product is an extension of me. This service is an extension of me. And I think that's what we lose along the way, and that's what takes us longer to get to that 3 to 5 year succession of okay, we got it. But I think if we apply like you did, you grab the camera because you're born with it, But if you live, this is me. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. This is me, And I think that's a really good point for the audience. Really good point that it really is. It really is.
And to me, but
So
actually,
I,
that's a good
it's
way into the relationship, though, because
yeah,
when you start to think about, like you love writing so much, I'm sure there are moments where you probably had a partner who was like, "Oh, you ever not gonna write?
yeah,
Like, nah, can you stop?" Right? So being able to have relationships where you can just under have someone that understands that, right? That it's always gonna be a part of me. Like no matter where I go out, if we go out to a concert, if we're going to a movie, if I see a beautiful sunset, I'm gonna stop and photograph it. You may look back like, where'd she go? Why did I lose her again? Because I am in my purpose. It's not gonna go anywhere, So it's
you're right.
relationship too. So
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, this brings us to the end of the show, and I always like to have you say the last words, Zakira. Like this, you say some last words that will encourage, whomever's out there listening to you, who may be cancer survivors, who may be authors or entrepreneurs, CEOs of somebody else's company, whatever the case may be. What is it that you can share with my audience today?
I want them to look deep inside themselves first and foremost. And it's the hardest thing. It's what people don't like to do, and I get it. I mean, I had no choice but to because it was just me.
Yeah.
Right? My siblings are twice my age. They were even in a different state. I'm growing up in middle school, and they're already in college, right? So I had no choice but to. But in those moments where you find yourself casually scrolling social media because your brain is just not letting go, it's probably trying to talk to you. So,
Yeah.
look inward, whatever is a different version of meditation that you may need to start trying, try it out because sometimes it's just a matter of there's somebody trying to get your attention, your younger self most likely trying to get your attention.
Yes,
Trying for you to
absolutely. That younger self kind of acts out sometimes if we don't resolve some of that stuff. But that's another show. That's another show. We want to thank you, Zakira, for being here. I really appreciate you. You said some really powerful things for myself, and I know you said powerful things for the audience. We want to say goodbye for now. I'm your host, Edna White, and my esteemed guest. We're going to say goodbye. Bye now.